Welcome to In the Flow, where we explore how marketing leaders leverage operations to eliminate chaos and capture opportunity. I'm Anthony Welgemoed, CEO of Ziflow. Today we're joined by previous guest Anil Noorani and our producer Lizzie for a roundtable discussion on AI, marketing, and how CMOs are thinking about this new technology. Welcome to this discussion.
Thanks. Great to be here, and Anil.
Hey, Lizzie.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me back. It's a real pleasure and a privilege. So I really appreciate it. Looking forward to the next sort of 40 minutes.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. So I'll just get us started. So, as Ann said, this is going to be about AI, CMOs, what they're thinking, what they need to know. And it's pretty much table stakes right now. They need an AI strategy. But what's less clear is what that actually involves. So curious to hear, Anil, and what you guys are seeing from people, what they're doing, what it actually takes to create a real strategy around AI that yields results.
Wonderful. And actually, just before we start, I just want to say one thing AI can't replace, of course, is human contact. And myself and Anthony met up in London on Friday for dinner, which was absolutely wonderful. I haven't seen him for a number of years, and it was great. He's obviously back home now, but it was really lovely to spend time together and break bread, and a great opportunity to explore these topics actually over dinner, which it doesn't sound that interesting. It really was. So yeah, I had a couple of notes I made actually. Just when I think about AI, I always like to see what other individuals that I sort of follow are saying. And obviously, there's a couple of quotes that I picked up. One, which you all have heard, but it's good to reinforce, which is, AI won't replace humans, but those who use AI will be the ones that replace those who don't. So I think that's always a really important sort of element to focus on. And I saw something else actually from an author who said artificial intelligence is not in itself a strategy, but it's a means to rethink your strategy. And again, I think there's a little bit of a confusion amongst organizations about what that really means. Is your strategy? Of course it's not. It's like saying the internet is, a strategy. It's just that it's merely an enabler to doing better business to all intents and purposes. And I think that's where we are with AI. But one of the things that I sort of wanted to dive into was how large enterprises are building out their AI strategy and what the building blocks look like. And I'm sure we'll talk more specifically about marketing in a moment, but it's interesting to see the way AI strategy is developing is on one side very centralized in a number of enterprises, and then in those same organizations, there are elements that are very decentralized. So, for example, the centralized elements, and this is something that I came across when I was reading some McKinsey work, things like risk and compliance are highly centralized. They're done at the C-suite, data governance for AI, and then the strategy itself and how that sort of dissipates into the other divisions of the organization, that's all done centrally. The things that are done more in a more decentralized fashion would be the hiring of the technology talent for a particular department, for example. So data engineers, guys who are really strong with AI in terms of generative AI, that sort of capability. And then also the adoption of AI in those divisions, in those departments. So the change managers, the storytellers, the communication experts, the guys who can make AI work. And I just thought it was really interesting. And my conclusion around that, actually, from a marketing CMO perspective, was we do run the risk of engaging with AI solutions that may not actually be fit for purpose in the short term. And I think that's something that we've encountered before in the world of SaaS, Anthony. You've certainly experienced it, where marketing departments are asked to use technology solutions that actually are being used in the finance department or in the IT team. But actually what they need is actual marketing systems. And with AI, we do run the risk that some of those decisions and the strategic direction, especially because of governance and data, are being done at that very enterprise level. And by the time it filters down to the marketing teams, it may not be fit for purpose. And I think CMOs need to be very aware that they get into those conversations very early on and help navigate and sort of move forward. Yeah, it's something that came up. And I'd love to get your thoughts on that as well. Is it something that you're seeing with your own business and also your clients, I suppose?
I think there's so much pressure from everywhere to use AI. And that's sort of when when I talk to our team about AI, it's like, we sort of bucket it as, or we sort of categorize it as just it's another automation sort of tool out there, and obviously very powerful. But there's also just a lot of very new, not great tools that are being built, very quickly, and it's just a wrap over some of these LLMs. Um, but if you sort of zoom out, and then I think what a lot of CMOs and marketing leaders are doing now is they're really experimenting currently. So this year a lot of dollars just going into everything AI first. So any AI first tool, spend the dollars, see what lands, and then next year is going to be a big consolidation. I think I was listening to another CMO on a podcast, from one of these big Fortune 500 companies, and he was saying this year it's just we're going to be probably up to 100 to 200 AI tools, but next year we're going to go right down to it's got to be 10 or 20. But everyone can use. Everyone's got a budget. They can just go crazy, but it's not going to. They don't be able to do that indefinitely. Whether that consolidation is going to happen that quick, I mean, we see that in SaaS. You see the consolidation, and then best of breed tools, and then consolidation is you sort of go through these waves the whole time. I think it's just another one of those waves. But obviously, these tools are growing at a rapid rate. So, as a founder, I wish we had that type of growth. You're always looking for that. But I think what's going to stick at the end. It's going to be interesting to see what's good. I mean, we're trying so many different tools, and we basically got 2 to 3 in production, if you will, right now in a marketing stack. We tried a bunch of others, and it's just not great. So it's hard. I mean, being a CMO, yeah.
It's interesting. Actually, again, the numbers person inside me sort of had a look at the market size, and you're right. I mean, the growth is just unbelievable. I mean, the US AI market is, I think, $150 billion or something like that at the moment. It's going to rise up to $900 billion. So I can't imagine how many more.
No, but I wonder what's the UK EU size. I mean,
Yeah, 72 billion apparently, according to Forbes, currently. I don't know who knows how accurate these numbers are though, really, because as you say, every single day we're getting 10 or 15 more. I'm getting emails from CEOs saying, please try out my technology. But it is interesting. There's two categories that I find are sort of dominating the space for AI at the moment. One is around data. Data governance and data management, and like the whole data area. That's where AI seems to be most effective at the moment. And then the other area, of course, is generative AI. And interestingly, those both absolutely impact the CMO and the marketing teams more than anyone else, I would argue. And then if you look at the industries where AI is having sort of, where the leaders, I suppose, it's in the technology sector, it's in the telco sector. And that's apparently the legal sector as well is coming through, which really makes you wonder how that market is going to develop from a jobs perspective. But you're right. I mean, I don't know. I mean, how do you determine when the consolidation happens, what's right for a business? Because with technology, historically, there's been other elements, around cultural fit and pricing, but it just feels with AI, it's now about who can keep up almost with the business need.
Well, this is reminding me of a conversation we had with Julia Aronson, where she talked about how, so often, especially in marketing, people are looking for a technical solution. And they'll kind of throw that on top of whatever the problem is and hope that it's going to solve it. But if the problem is something related to your process or related to not having the right people, all that does is exacerbate issues. And I kind of am thinking, like what you were saying, and you're like, AI it's a tool. What you both have been saying, it's a tool, and people are trying, hundreds of them, but only a few of them are probably going to stick around and work. And then there's also the question of, do they solve the problem people are trying to solve?
Have they identified those problems?
Yes.
Have they determined their vision? I think, Lizzie, it's sort of just to build on what you said. I think a lot of organizations are really struggling with that. And then, they're not quite sure what the vision is for AI. And then they're not sure how AI ready they are. And, I was thinking about the people challenge. We talked about people on the last podcast, in terms of that people strategy, operations and cash sort of structure. And I think, there's two sorts of people around AI for me. There are the storytellers, the creative thinkers, the ones that are comfortable with exploration. And then on the other side, there's the guys that are data fluent, technologists, understand governance, and they're quite different mindsets. In fact, between the three of us, we probably have all of those attributes. But those individuals aren't necessarily always in the decision-making program, especially around the strategic vision. And then also when those organizations are being onboarded. So I think that's why they're having to sort of look at so many. I'm sure if they nail those two elements first, the number of platforms they would look at or technologies they would look at would actually be much smaller.
I think yeah, you're mentioning data there, and the thing I'm finding as you try out these different tools is that, okay, how do you consolidate what's working? Because okay, you go to an event, you got all these leads, and now what do? Do you just go and automate the outbound to the 2,500 contacts you have, and enrich it and use AI for the messaging and find other people around it? So and which tool is the best, which messaging is the best for that ICP, and supposedly AI will just figure that out for you. And I would say, I think for me, I'm a technologist, but there's still a little bit of a trust issue. Is that messaging going to be good? I mean, it can generate it, but is it going to resonate, or is it just like giving us the ability to just like scale like crazy, and you can just message everybody in the world?
And also, does it damage brand equity? And I think that
Yeah.
in terms of the long term and the short term goals for CMO, brand equity is a long term program, and it's one that is constantly being evaluated, and is a really important factor on the balance sheet. And actually, as you say, that trust. You mentioned enrichment of data there, and which is where I think that AI can really play an important role. But I still, there's a long way to go. I think the data volumes have exceeded our ability to bring it together and enrich it in an effective way. But having said that, AI will help us like move into that sort of those micro journeys and that deep personalization that our consumers expect of us. But as you say, can we trust it? And at the moment, the jury's out.
So let's do this. So Lizzie, we've spoken to a few people, and I think we sort of realized that CMO. I mean, not we realize, but it's a common topic that comes up the whole time. Is like CMO tenure 18 months, right? I mean, if you're a CMO, what bets do you make here, because it's so short?
Yeah, and brand equity is such a long-term goal. I'm just like to add some color to that question is like, yeah, if you only have 18 months, but you want to work on this long-term vision, that's something that's like going to be years. Like, how do you do that while meeting short-term goals?
Yeah, I mean, and I think we've moved into a fairly short-term world, and I think the way we generate content has gone down that way as well. So CMOs are really aligning themselves, I think, to the way the customers are behaving, as they should. So I think a lot of the focus at the moment around CMOs is around measurement and attribution, trying to get that nailed down, and actually bringing AI on and next generation marketing technology on to be creative innovators amongst their space. So they're looking at how consumer, immersive content, for example. They're looking at how consumers are are engaging with their brand, and those longer term elements like developing the brand, trying to tackle things like the creator economy, how they engage with that, are almost taking a little bit of a back seat, I think, because they are completely consumed by, okay, how's AI going to impact us? And it's just, so it's an extreme challenge. And I think just to close off on the measurement and attribution, I don't really believe we've seen any great strides in that actually over the last couple of years. So I think that'll be the first thing that they are going to have to deal with, because that in order to extend their tenure beyond 18 months, they've got to figure that out, because they've got to illustrate a return on investment, which is extremely difficult at board level at the moment, more so than I can ever remember, actually, in terms of how the markets are developing in the global economy. So yeah, I think it's a challenge, and brand equity might even end up taking a back seat in some instances.
Yeah, and even product, because we're seeing some average products being released out there. We got one that's sort of adjacent to Ziflow, and we've had prospects come around and go like, yeah, they tried to take a trial of this product. It's not proofing, it's something totally adjacent, but it's another damn product, but they can't even, they were on the demo with them, and it's like, it's just falling apart, but they talk about all these AI features they have. And so it's interesting getting people in the door, but then the product just does not work. Yeah, so we'll see.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? You're much closer to this than I am, but every platform that I've seen, HubSpot, Salesforce, Monday.com, now they've all got an AI solution. It's branded, it's got its own personality, its own name. And actually, some of them are, I sort of see a lot of them as an extension of what would have happened regardless of the AI phenomenon, making management information more accessible, be able to build your own dashboards, have that, those sorts of like data centric and predictive solutions, which are coming under the wrapper of AI now. But I'm not totally convinced they are completely AI focused. I think they're a natural evolution. But I suspect, I mean, in your world, Anthony, your clients, I mean, how much are they talking to you, or your prospects as well? How much are they talking to you specifically about AI? Do they want to know what the roadmaps look like? Are they really engaged with that, or is there just an expectation that you are
That's a
investing?
good question. Yeah, that's a really good question. So what we're seeing is, Review AI, we sort of announced it at Monday's Elevate event. And you were talking about, the AI product, and again, talking with Julia Aronson, and she worked on Compare the Meerkats, our campaign. We talked about how the meerkat was such a good animal for insurance. Monday's got their llama. So yeah, that's been ahead. So I'm definitely thinking about what our AI animals going to be as we move forward. That's top of mind. What is our AI animal? It's the only thing I care about right now.
I mean, it's going to be South African, surely.
Yeah.
Maybe a lion. I don't, yeah.
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 Well, something I feel that I don't know. I don't know much about South African like fauna and life, wildlife. But I feel like it's pretty unique. There must be something very unique. No?
Well, I'd see if it's a lion. That feels a little bit cliche to me. I think it needs to be
A
something.
little bit t-shirt. I was just thinking about the big five, bro. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I might just ask my kids what they think's cute. Yeah, what's those? I don't know. They got these dolls at the moment. They look really scary. I kind of it's some.
Oh, are those the boo-boos?
Yeah. So
There's-
yeah, yeah. So we got two in the house, and I'm like, yeah, these are very scary. So maybe that. I don't know. Um,
I think that trend's gonna come and go, hopefully. There's some later it'll go.
All right, so we have a job. We have to figure out the actual animals. So we'll work on that. But I think so. What we're seeing is people are really interested in review AI. So you can see a ton of time being saved. We're looking at like the ROI on it, because usually with proofing, it's so hard to attach the ROI to the automated workflow and how much easier it is to like review stuff and centralize it. But attaching the ROI, like how much time you save, but hard. With review AI and the checklist, we sort of worked out, each checklist item takes 30 seconds to a minute to check. And if it's multiple pages, takes even longer. That check's done almost basically immediately with review AI. So the ROI and that's just like incredible. Now, when people come in and they ask about it, they're really interested, but they need the core tool. They need the core automated workflow. They need everything around it. And that's why we've seen 3 AI first companies come and go now, where they're like, hey, you just upload your content. We need a few pieces, your brand guidelines, and we'll check everything for you. That's it. It's automated. And most of them didn't even sign up one client. And they burned through millions of dollars of development because they build their own mini LLMs and so on. And I think, ultimately you still need the whole product around. So people come in and are really interested in it, see the whole product, and they really focus on getting that deployed. And then we look at attaching review AI. I think as we go, we'll have more of it, but it's definitely, it's right now, it's the additional bit that really accelerates it.
Okay, I mean, that's really interesting as well in terms of, I'm just trying to understand then, So when they speak to you, the way I see sort of like marketing directors and how they bucket up their AI initiatives, it's growth is one area. So that's really, making sure they're getting out to as many people as is humanly possible with the right message. But it's still quite an internal focused solution around AI. So there's growth. Then there's efficiency, which is, I suspect, clearly where you reside, and therefore you're more on the agentic side of AI and delivering operational efficiency and everything that goes with that. And then there's customer, which is still an internal sort of focused AI strategy. And then there's customer experience, which is ensuring absolute relevancy, all the things you mentioned earlier about micro segmentation, or ensuring the content is completely relevant to that individual at any given time. And that is very much a customer centric area. Around those three buckets, where do you think marketing teams are focusing their attention mostly?
Yeah.
It's
Always
good
growth.
growth, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's even pre-AI. I mean, if you see the tools that grow the quickest, it's the ones that attach themselves to revenue. It's either so if you can attach, if you've got a solution that's like, hey, I'm going to get you more revenue, that generally does the best, and then there's the cost saving piece. So it's those two elements. We're on the cost saving, probably the efficiency side. So it's not always the hot topic. But yeah, anything that drives growth. I mean, you say that, but PM systems, work management, that is efficiency, but it's so pervasive now. But yeah, if you can be sales or marketing growth, more leads, more pipeline.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's super important. Again, I was just thinking, predictive modeling, social listening, um, micro segmentation. These are the areas that I think where marketing directors, to get that attribution as well and really understand that, are really starting to hone in on. Those are sort of actually more linked to growth. But interestingly, I think I've got maybe a slightly different opinion. I mean, growth is always going to win through, but I am definitely seeing at the moment operational effectiveness being quite a hot topic because it's maybe slightly easier to deploy as well. It's sort of easier to get your arms around. And I think the sort of huge resurgence of marketing operations, and we talked about this on the last podcast, the fact creative operations are being sort of drafted into that marketing operations sphere, means that you have a ready-made team of individuals that are being tasked with delivering operational effectiveness. And then they're sort of getting their arms around the data requirements and the AI requirements. And that's where they're starting, because I think it's probably where they feel most comfortable. And so they're doing both those elements, looking at sort of growth initiatives and operational effectiveness. But naturally, being marketing operations individuals, they're leaning a little bit more on efficiency. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. If you're basically an AI CEO today and you're trying to figure out, are you going to be a hot topic or not in the next 6 months, I think we're going to see quite a big push into operational effectiveness, which is obviously great for companies like Ziflow and organizations like yours. Because I think that's where next 12 months we're going to really see a lot of movement, personally.
Lizzie, how much are you seeing on your side from what would you getting exposed to?
In terms of
AI tools, yeah.
yeah, I mean, I mostly, know about the LLMs. I know that there's some that are like, like there's Harvey is the one that's for legal teams. There's some that are getting defined kind of by industry, these different tools. And there's some that like do video, video generation and stuff like that.
But
Um,
in your everyday life, I mean, are you seeing anything? Does your organization push a lot more? Is there anything that they sort of prioritizing, if you will? Is it more efficiency or?
I'm a freelancer, so no one's really pushing anything on me. But I guess I
That's
guess
a great place to be.
agree,
Yeah.
agree. But I know that there is a push towards efficiency, for sure, with the idea being like on the content side, if you can produce, instead of like one blog post or something in that amount of time, if you can produce 10, the notion is that that's, better. And I can see why, because I think we're still in this era of more is more. But something that I, do have a concern about is if AI tools are used to scale and to grow, and if everybody's doing that, then the marginal return is lower. Everyone's going to have a lower return on that because, your audience has limited attention. So it will become more competitive to get people's attention. And if your only solution to capture that attention is to do more, at a certain point that might, you're getting diminishing returns on that. So
Yeah. So
that's what I'm kind of like thinking about with AI, which is not to say that it's not valuable. It absolutely is to be able to reach more people, to do that effectively will have an impact. Um, but only to an extent. And I think that's when you're going to have to get back into, how do we capture that attention? And I've been thinking about the compare the meerkat thing a lot because I'm like, you could have put if the creative director had been using AI then and was like, I'm trying to do a campaign for compare the market, it never would have come up with use meerkats. That
yeah,
was
yeah.
never going to be an
It's
issue.
like he was basically on holiday and he came up with the idea. It was like,
You're like at the zoo, and he's like, "Oh, there's a meerkat. Sounds like market." Okay.
yeah, he was at the
Then
zoo, yeah.
yeah, and then there was this whole other piece, he created characters, so it wasn't like, he just went with that idea. It's like this whole thing. But that had a real impact for that company. Like, it increased their market share, I think, by, like, an insane proportion. It became, everyone in the UK knows that campaign. So I think more and more that's gonna be a direction people are gonna have to move in because if you can't, win people's attention in their inboxes or their social media feeds or wherever you're trying to reach them, you're gonna have to win it by being, funny or
Yeah.
compelling or sharing something new or doing all these kind of, like, big idea marketing things. So it'll be kind of interesting to see, you know, how this kind of splits, that's kind of what I'm anticipating.
I still think that there's something about like, I always say to the team, it's like, how do we connect emotionally with an audience? So, so the brand, we sort of did a brand refresh last year because it just felt like we had this blue and it was like everyone's blue and didn't feel like I sort of like injected some of my personality into the sort of the updated logo and the messaging and sort of like go close to how I feel about it. But maybe that's not the best way either. You say you shouldn't market to yourself, right? But to
I
your
like a brand
audience.
refresh. And I'm not just saying that, I promise.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, so when I was in London now, I was standing at the station, and oddly enough, I mean, because we also spoke about that whole Specsavers campaign and the whole, you should have gone, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that whole campaign. So there's another insurance company in the UK now. They've got this vertically split ad. It's in three sections. So I had a billboard and they got the Weetabix or Weet-Bix if you're from the Southern Hemisphere. So they have you had your, and then it's the insurance company's name today. And they sort of like have a peeled up almost part of the logo. And they did that with Specsavers. You should have gone to insurance company's name. And then they had another third one. I can't remember, but I thought like, man, that is like really splitting your messaging. It's like you're trying all three of the like good messages. It's not even your own. I was like, oh,
Right.
I mean, that sounds dreadful, if I'm honest. I mean, it's a scotch.
yeah.
I mean, I totally agree with Lizzie. I think the critical thinking, the creative critical thinking is just absolutely worth every penny and will never disappear. I think that craft is just so important. And I work very closely with a number of creative teams and sit on the board of a sort of creative innovation team. And when I see them using AI, it's to give them stimulus around ideation. It's to bring ideas to life, but the actual ideas themselves, that's them sitting in a room or going for a walk and having a think and doing what they do brilliantly, which is problem solving, things that haven't been solved before. And I think that's the real difference. And I think going back to what I was saying about the two types of people that you need when you're building your AI enablement strategy. You need those critical thinkers, those creative thinkers, and those problem solvers on one side. And I can't see how that would be replaced. And that's why I'm starting to feel that the agentic AI push, the efficiency, the idea that, okay, I can run a campaign, I can create copy, but only after it's been actually done effectively by a really strong copywriter. I can sort of edit that, use AI to edit copy. I can use AI to translate copy. I can use AI to push content through HubSpot or Salesforce, as we mentioned before, and I can even look at the metrics associated with that. I can do a lot of that using AI because they, unfortunately or fortunately, there is an efficiency there that can be garnered from what's been done historically. But the starting point of the creativity, I think, sits so high, completely in the hands of a human. But that's why I think the operational side of AI is going to really take hold next year. And I do unfortunately see marketing teams, some of them will be struggling to figure out, okay, what I have been doing historically manually or using platforms is now going to change because AI is coming in. I think we're seeing that today. That's already there. So that's where I feel the next sort of 12 months is going to take us. It's going to be a brave new world in that respect. But creatively, jury's out at the moment. And AI around creativity is definitely not being discussed at that board level, as we were talking about earlier. It's just not happening. So that will have to be done at the marketing level once it sort of filters down.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Anil. And I think both of you are kind of in like the process operational space. And I think in terms of because the sort of more creative parts of marketing, like that's going to be harder to perhaps nail down with AI. I think it's like these operational things because you will be able to improve those efficiencies and measure them and build workflows around and build out those AI workflows. And I think that's kind of what we'll see from like a marketing perspective. But I think the challenges right now is so there's just what you were saying, Ant, there's so many tools. People don't know which ones to use, how to use them, where they fit in the flow, and we'll see how people figure that out.
It should be great next time we get together is to actually come back with some AI case studies that have been super successful in this space, actually, because we must be getting close to those being published, and talked about. We don't come across that many at the moment, though, I don't think.
No.
Yeah. Lizzie, just so a little bit off topic, but still AI. So they've got that AI actor, and I know that's a little bit of what you've done before. Have you seen that?
Oh, I have. Yeah, I'm against it. Yeah, I mean, because
Yes.
like, uh, there's a lot. I mean, that I think raises a lot of like ethical. Well, yeah, it raises some questions because there's an actors union which I'm in, and it's like, could this AI creation join the union? But then they're taking jobs away from people in the union. But if they can't be in the union, then they're not going to get any like legitimate work. Um, but I read there was an op-ed in the New York Times. I read about it where they were talking to some like head technologist at Microsoft because he had spoken to some studio head, and the studio head was like so excited about the AI actor and stuff because he's like, oh, we'll be able to get rid of the actors and the producers and the writers and all these idiots who like take up the budget. And then the guy from Microsoft was like, well, if you get rid of all those people, there's no point for you. And there's no reason to have a studio head. And he's like, everything's going to be just like on some server in Silicon Valley. So I'm interested to see if it kind of how it goes. I mean, I'm sure there'll be a place for it, but I want, we'll see again. That's the thing. Do people want
I think that, we were just talking about like meeting up last week, Friday, and how amazing it was for you to see me and hang out.
I remember it slightly differently to that, but yeah, carry on.
Okay, might have been the drinks talking, but if people, it's like, okay, apart from the meerkat and all of that and the llamas, but people still want to interact with people. I mean, we go to these events and people come around to the booth and like, oh yeah, amazing seeing you. And it's just that real life human interaction. And it's going to be, I mean, we've seen these AI actors and you can see if an ad's truly just AI generated or even like images. I mean, you can generally tell, no, not always, but I think people are still gonna lean towards having real life acting and so on. I just can't see it. I mean, in the writing, I mean, good writing, that's an unbelievable
So
story.
it's just beautiful, isn't it, when it works? And I think I'm affiliated to a virtual production studio in Brooklyn, and I think when we have like client days at that, and companies come over and visit, or we're doing a production shoot, we always talk about it being as well as, not instead of the traditional shoots, because actually it'll never be as good as that. Actually going on site and filming. Um, but the studio offers something slightly different, and obviously it's all done in pre-production, and it's potentially more, more sustainable and lower cost, but no, marginally lower cost. Um, and it's perfect for certain times, but a lot of the times you want to go down that traditional route. And I think that's where it's about finding the balance, isn't it? And as is life actually, and finding the balance between, operational efficiency and creative brilliance. Finding that balance between virtual production and on-site location shooting, and writing as well. Again, great storytelling versus I don't know, transcreation or localization, which can be done, using AI, because the core message is already there. And I think we're definitely in this process, or this time, I think, where we have to find the balance and not lurch into one way of operating and hope that that's going to be successful, because actually we could get ourselves into a right mess, especially around, as you said it earlier, the ethics and the bias associated with AI as well. And I don't think that's with some time away from or fulfilling that sort of requirement, I think.
Yeah, yeah, it just feels like, yeah, I mean, I think like, if you look at it, I mean, we're obviously thinking like how AI takes over the world and, does everything. Like, oh, you have a whole movie and you can then, so I've heard on another podcast where they talk about like, you can create your own experience and so on. Really, I just want to watch the movie. I don't want to think. That's the whole point. I mean, people done the thinking. I don't want to have like this, experience where like, oh, I want the character to no. I mean, I can see with gaming, maybe like there's the
Absolutely.
characters, a bit of AI and stuff, and it can change the storyline. But still, I mean, okay, how far does it go off, track from
Mm.
what they've developed and so on? Look, ultimately, I mean, I think if we thought, I mean, some of these characters in the games are just amazing. I mean, you can see the lips are now synced with a voice. I mean, these are games of years ago now already, but it's all synced and so on. But it just still doesn't replace real human beings. So I think it's all great seeing what the tech can do. But I think once you can get AI in our lives without you knowing it's part of it, I think that's the important thing. So right now it's like, oh yes, here's an AI actor. Okay, yes, here's an AI generated whatever. We can make it like Tesla. Okay, make it just it's self-driving. People don't think it's AI. It's called self-driving cars. So, but it's all AI.
If we discover that you're an AI actor after this podcast, Anthony, I don't know how I'm going to feel. Do you know what I mean? I think I'm speaking to a human, but but that's where we are. It's really challenging to figure out what's real and what isn't nowadays. And it's I think politically, certainly, it's blown the world into a bit of turmoil, actually. And
Well, actually, maybe that's not maybe we should start with the actual politics in some cases where some of that's AI, rather than real life people, because I think it great.
actually, yeah, maybe it'll be more effective, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Right.
Try to not free it, but yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Just one thing that's going on in my world, which is really interesting actually, around AI, is so I'm basically a governor of a number of schools in the UK, and we've just built with SOA University the first AI closed AI LLM. So it's in early stages, but so children can utilize all the value that AI could bring, but in a really safe environment. And I think that's really interesting.
That's
For special education needs, that type of thing. I think AI can really add a lot of value and it can be controlled and really governed, because it can be in a very closed environment. So I think there's some wonderful utility coming around the corner that's going to positively disrupt education, and some of those other areas where you have a bit more control and it's not in the public domain. So yeah, I think I'm sure we'll be having a number of these types of conversations over the next 12 months. But I mean, I'm so excited by what's coming up because it just feels, being comfortable with chaos, I think, is something that we've all become used to, especially post-COVID, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of changes.
Did you feel the same at when you got to the train station to get home with the chaos of the delayed and cancelled trains?
let's not go. I got the last train home, and it was not a pleasant experience. It was fairly rough.
Sorry.
I don't think our train system has been. I don't think the Network Rail has aligned itself around AI, but they really should look at driving efficiencies. But that's another conversation.
There are probably a few a few ways of technology behind AI. I think the rail systems, but if you go beyond there.
Yeah, I wonder. So yeah, I wonder also. I don't know how the governments are actually engaging with AI around some of these areas actually, and whether they have the skills internally within their organisations to make these. I don't know if transformation is the right word. Actually, it's more, integration and evolution of existing structures.
Well, I think, yeah, I think again, I think the US is leading it. If you look at Palantir, I mean, they've been involved, with the US government, but UK, Europe, we don't really hear about it. We just hear about it. Just feels like it's always survival. And then, did you see that gaff with the with the actual chocolate bar at the Conservative Party, where they had like if Labour makes a decision, Britain Britain loses or something, but they misspelled Britain.
How
And
doesn't
so I
surprise
mean, yeah, if
Yeah.
again, I mean, I'm like, I told our team we had to go outbound to the Conservative Party. They definitely need briefing, but
They clearly need your solution. Absolutely.
yeah, but I'm just like that's sort of stuff that yeah, we're getting to politics now. It's not my fault here, but it just it's just yeah, can they use something, can they use automation and things like that to help them move faster, because it just feels like, yeah, sometimes it's moving slow and in not always the right directions. But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think clearly Palantir is doing something. Don't always know what. Heard some really good, interesting stuff from what they've done, especially like just like investing. They had some available dollars. They needed an investment plan. They had like some of the smartest brains work out what it is. Palantir came in and just gobbled up all their data, gave them an investment strategy, and they made way more money through that. So I don't know how they did it, but it sounds pretty good. But yeah.
Yeah. No, it's good to hear. Yeah. Positive.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just something like the more data you can feed a model, the more, accurate, better it's going to be. Uh, even from a strategic perspective, come up with better strategies. But to bring it back to marketing, I think the kind of last thing I kind of wanted to touch on is not so super. We kind of touched on it a little bit. It's not like super AI related, but I think one of the issues that CMOs are continue to have is like how do they communicate their value to finance? And we've touched on this, where it's just so hard to capture attribution, um, understand ROI. I mean, do you think there's going to be an AI solution for that, or is there some, how else can marketing leaders kind of start doing that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, and this is an ongoing challenge, isn't it? I mean, it's just I think there's a number of things I think that marketing leaders could also do to support their own stories when they're speaking to financial leaders. You've already said attribution, illustrating evidence, and not vanity metrics, but actual evidence is something that they absolutely need to focus on. I think this idea of better integration between their stacks, their MarTech solutions, to ensure that they have enriched data is absolutely crucial now. So they have to. I mean, look, no marketeer gets into marketing to be experts in data, to be experts in technology. They're all about building the brand. They're all about creativity. They're all about working with their in-house and external agencies. But they find themselves in a situation where they have to deal with the data. And once they do that, then the financial directors will probably get off their backs a little bit and allow them more investment, but you have to show an uplift in marketing. I was having a think about this. I came across a couple of great lines of sort of share with it because they really are fantastic. Uh, Henry Ford, when he's talking about marketing investment, he said, "Cutting marketing to save money is like stopping a clock to save time." It's such a dangerous thing to do. And obviously, financial directors and CFOs, they are driven by the quarter, they are driven by the monthly numbers. And we also need to educate them to see beyond that, start looking at lifetime value as a long-term, commercial prospect. And then there's this great, this is actually an anonymous quote. I think we should own it because it's such a great quote. It says, if you think, well,
Neil, this is your quote.
no, it's not. I don't. Someone will come back to you and say this isn't. That's Anil didn't say that first. But yeah, if you think marketing is expensive, try being irrelevant. I mean, that is just. I mean, Anthony, having run a number of startups and obviously moved to scale ups, and getting the brand out there early doors is extremely challenging. And it's a marketing challenge fundamentally. It doesn't matter how great the product is. It doesn't matter how wonderful the customer case studies are. If they're not seen or talked about amongst the community that you're selling to, is very hard to push on. And salience is singularly the most important thing about a challenger brand, generating that awareness. And finance have to pay for it. So
Yeah, and the thing is, like, it's there's great quotes, and I think it's like, we'll sort of see it. It's layering in so many different marketing elements, and you have to keep going at them the whole time. And marketing really pays off over long term, sort of timelines and horizons. It's, maybe there's a campaign you can run and, something happens quickly, but it just doesn't work, all that you can't just run the same thing the whole time. And there's no, it just never feels like or I don't think there's a silver bullet where, hey, you do this one thing and just all of a sudden magically, you're in marketing, that just magically happens. It's, you need, there's going to be luck involved. There's going to be a good story, creative, really just connect with people. And then just, the timing is sometimes also involved with the whole thing. You can't just always predict that.
I mean, Lizzie, I'm not sure if Julia said this on your podcast, like when she last appeared, but I'd love to have been a fly on the wall when they pitched the idea of the meerkat, and the CFO will have been sitting there. I mean, he or she, I'm sure, actually probably was fully engaged and embraced it. But the risk around a wonderful creative idea like that, it just goes to show, with the right level of insight, with the right creative team, and then how that campaign was rolled out, beautiful, and it really made a mark. And it's a great illustration of how a challenger brand can really develop effectively with a really strong story, a market positioning that is unique to them, and then the salience. So it's just in everyone's faces all the time, and there's no getting away from it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'd be curious. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go on.
Well, I was curious, Anne, for you, like, you've founded 2 companies. You come from more of a technical side, but it seems like you understand obviously the importance of marketing. I mean, do you remember any particular moments in either Proof HQ or with Ziflow where it felt like the marketing was starting to click and you could feel it? And like, do you know what it was or what was going on?
Yeah, so I think, so with Proof HQ, I think what we did eventually early on was like, just like, let's just own online proofing. It's still not a very known term necessarily. I think the space, Neil, you and I move in, people know it, but when you go broadly out to marketers, they don't know the term. But we said, hey, we want to be number one for that. But the thing we had there, we had a market pull. So the software market was growing. The whole MarTech stack we were one of maybe 100 or few hundred tools where it's now thousands and thousands. So there wasn't proofing, a little bit of proofing in other tools. So there wasn't a Monday.com had just sort of launched, and so it was still a very early software market back in 2010, and we just grew with the whole software market. So that's what I was saying. Timing helps. So we had a good product, decent marketing and so on, but the market pulled us, and we had that momentum. With Ziflow, I mean, again, use very similar method. Try keep it simple, but I feel like now we have to be in a lot more places at any one time. People aren't just going to find you in that one spot, you know, whether it's a paid ad or a blog post or a LinkedIn post. It is just, you have to be so, you have to be everywhere. It's just so much harder cutting through the noise.
But it's because there's also been it's a brilliant point you make. I mean, who'd want to be a CEO of a tech company, Lizzie, right? But, you know,
I mean,
uh, but you're right. It's like, I mean, what I'm amazed by when I'm on the underground, for example, and I see adverts that are B2B platforms that are being pitched to consumers now, and the democratization.
you like, I saw a DB on it's a database for trading platforms, and they were advertising.
Yeah, it's just mad. And, you know, like back in the day, you would never have seen, you know, I don't know, HubSpot, for example, being sold to consumers, but the democratization of software. And obviously everyone works from home now, so you can pretty much use whatever application you want, even if it's not within, you know, the sort of definition of what you're meant to use by the organization that you work for. You can still have it on the side and utilize it as in a free way, as a single consumer. And I think that's where you need to be everywhere all at once. And it is an incredible challenge to stay focused, actually, I think, on the audience in hand. And you're right, back in the day, you could maybe focus on 2 or 3 channels, no more. Yeah. And you've got to be able to pivot as well quickly, you know, around trends aren't effective for you.
Yeah, and also people want to hear from people. I mean, Lizzie and I have spoken about this. Lizzie, you probably have way more experience with this, but you know, I've been very much more of an introvert. You know, don't like being out there, but you know, if you're like, yeah, you got to tell the story. You want people to hear it, and like our brand. There's the brand and there's the people around it. We've got great team members, so we're trying to figure out how do we get them to like be more out there and talking about, you know, what they do and the product, etc. And it's super hard, but yeah, it's just it's leveled up the marketing game.
And then you know, something we're seeing more on the content end is people really resonate with hearing more of a personal experience, whether that's personal experience working at a company or with something, with the kind of using a certain tool. Those things really tend to cut through. So yeah. But yeah, go ahead, Anil.
No, I was also just, it's a really, really interesting sort of point or debate that this has opened up for me in terms of also the pricing structures. I mean, again, when you're sitting with your financial director as a marketing director and you're in charge of product and price and that type of thing, with the democratization, you know, the ability to scale, like companies obviously are much smaller now, naturally, you know, and you know that world of enterprise sales is also potentially in 5 or 10 years, it may not exist in the way that we could lean in on that, you know, 5 or 10 years ago with technology. So suddenly your price points, you've got to sell a lot more to much smaller organizations, and therefore, you know, it's going to completely disrupt, you know, the ability to sort of like get into one organization and land and expand in the way that we historically could do. So I think, again, that's another challenge that marketing and directors and CMOs, especially in the B2B space, are now having to deal with. Although having said that, in the B2B space, they now suddenly have access to the B2C space, which they didn't have previously. So I suppose it's, there's again, a little bit of a balance there, but it's working out your commercial modeling, I think, is a real challenge for technology companies and many of these AI solutions. I mean, I think, again, customers just expect it to be free most of the time as well, which is another
Bongo. That's always been that feels like it's always been the case. So yeah.
And yeah, I just wanted to add to what you were saying, because I had thought of another challenge, which is that a lot of these channels are kind of moving targets for marketing. You know, like the strategy that you have to use on a given channel, it doesn't stay static within, you know, 12, 18-month period. You know, you have to evolve with it. And that's kind of like another challenge on top of the, like, you know, the enterprise sales kind of changing is the marketing. You kind of have to be continuously monitoring and shifting and reading trends. Yeah.
And how do you search? I was just reading someone in my network had just released something, you know, around rather than search engine optimization, you know, it's obviously answer engine optimization now. If you do a search on ChatGPT, you know, it comes up for, I did a search earlier, what are the best Nike trainers in the market, it gives me 8 options. What is the best X? It gives you 8 options. So, you've got to, how do you get into, you've got to fight for that space now. Whereas at least with Google, there's millions of pages. You may not go past page 1, but you've got those options. Whereas obviously with the,
I'm not doing a lot more YouTube. So I'm buying running shoes, and as I told Lizzie, I'm and told you as well, training, but I wanted to get some new running shoes. And it is like, I went on ChatGPT and it gave me all these different options. I'm like, man, okay. So I flicked over to YouTube and just said, hey, just give me some trainer reviews, just to get into that.
I don't think we've figured out those algorithms yet either effectively. And it'll be interesting how the digital agencies and the digital teams within those marketing environments really respond to how they manage content for search. And again, I think that's something that we need to watch that space very carefully over the next 12 months. But it's been very disruptive, I think, with ChatGPT. And is ranking high. I think it ranks second now after Google as the thing that companies are using, or individuals are using most to find what they need. But it can be restrictive.
Well, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much, Anil, for being here. Loved having you special. And obviously great that you're here as well.
Great, thank you. Wonderful, yeah. Thank you guys. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Blake. Yeah, I'm sharing insights from around the marketing, tech, and operations industries on how marketing and creative teams can get more done together.